each other?
Max.
Andrew.
Tony.
Simon.
Adrian.
Terry.
Robin.
Cut.
Once again, we're here. The same old, same old. The drugless drug. And understand we don't teach you anything here and we don't tell you anything. Continually point that out. Because you've got that idea that you're going to get something or become something or be something. It's the wrong outlook. What we point to is very simple. The simplicity is missed out on. There's all sorts of labels have gone onto it over the ages. Most every different religion and all the sidelines are from those different religions all come about from it. But in the simplicity, in Hinduism, for instance, they call it Advaita. Advaita meaning non-duality. And they try and describe non-duality by saying it's one without a second, not two. So you take that statement that it's not two, for a start off, and you basically get the idea of what we're talking to. They try to describe Advaita by saying it's not two. They call it one without a second. And they put that label on because even the idea of one implies there can be other than one. So they put that label on just to take that implication off. It's not. And have a look at that. Where can two start off if there's not one beforehand? Any count start off with two? It doesn't. It all starts off with that one. And isn't that duality? Duality as soon as they get to two? And they point out there is absolutely no duality in non-duality. So another simple statement, if you see what that means, there's only this one essence, patterning, shaping, forming, appearing and expressing as everything. That is all there is. It's not two. It never was two, never will be two, or never could be two. And as soon as there's the one, and then comes the two, there are the many. But it's never ever been anything other than the one. Christianity or Buddhism will tell you the same thing. And this might be something you never understood or seen or believed, where they'll say it's non-conceptual, ever-fresh presence awareness. And they add on to that just this, nothing else. They're basically pointing to this presence awareness as all there is, not just this, nothing else other than that. There it is in its bare statement. But who listens to that? Who hears it? And we add all sorts of other concepts and ideas onto it. Anyone who's not present and aware right now? And you ask yourself that and you say, no, I'm present and I'm aware. So you didn't have to go anywhere to find that, did you? Wasn't a realisation there right immediately? That right here, right now, you are present and aware of that presence. Christianity, talking about God, religion or whatever, they'll say it's omnipresence, omnipotence, omnipotence. Omnipresence is total presence. Again pointing out there's only this immediacy, this total presence. Omnipotence, total power. So it's not mind power, thought power, higher power, lower power, or any other sort of a power, but the one power that's patterning, shaping, forming and expressing as everything. And omniscience, another word for omniscience is pure intelligence, total intelligence. It's not your intellect or my intellect or any other, what this scientist says or this philosopher or this whatever physicist said. It's omniscience, it's a total intelligence. So they're all pointing, again, the basic start of those great traditions is pointing to the oneness of everything. It's only the one. But who sees that today? It's lost sight of. It's lost sight of, and they're going to divide it up into this, that and everything else and move it away from its simplicity. And again, in Hinduism they say it's put the label on as Sat Chit Ananda, 3 of the 5 factors, breaking it down into different labels. I say there's 5 factors to it. 3 of the 5 factors are Sat Chit Ananda: being, existence, consciousness, bliss, or being, knowing, and loving to be. And the other 2 factors, Nama Rupa. Nama meaning name, and Rupa form. And I'll tell you that Nama Rupa, the 2 other factors, are Maya. They're illusion. The name and the form are illusion. And haven't we got names on all these forms? We put labels on it and taken the label or the word to be the thing, and it's not seen. The name and the form is believed in, and we don't see the reality of it. The Nama Rupa, as they say, is Maya. Maya meaning illusion. It's illusionary manifestation and expression and appearance. Illusionary. Or as they say, it's a phenomenal manifestation. Look your dictionary up and see the word phenomena is that which appears to be. Seeing that all this manifestation, though it appears solid, substantial, and to perceive some static nature or some substantial nature of its own, is Maya. It's illusion. It's a phenomenal manifestation. It's only appearance. And when you look into these things, they're seemingly so, and investigate them, you'll see they'll fall apart under the investigation, that they haven't got any substance to them or any independent nature. So you start to recognise, looking into these things, that all we've been taught and all we've been pointed to and all we've believed in is a lot of bullshit. It's all this Maya, it's all illusion, which has been taken to be real. And in the investigation they pull it apart and find it all, keep pulling it apart and putting more concepts and ideas on it, and get millions of different labels on it. The other way I pointed to it is I'm not talking to anybody, I'm not talking to any mind. I'm not talking to your body, mind, that entity you believe yourself to be, this body-mind entity. And have a look at it, isn't that unless you've looked at this that you believed in? I am this person, I am this individual, I am this body and I am this mind. Why do we believe that? Because it's been put upon us when we were little children, and we've reinforced it ever since then and never questioned it, never looked at it. So I'm not talking to your body. I'm not talking to your mind, or that believed in you, that mental you that you believe that you are. I'm talking to that I am, that I am. What I know this I am to be, the sense of presence. The sense of presence that translates through the mind as the thought I am. To label or say something about I am you've got to put a word on it or a label. But to recognise the sense of presence, the label is taken to be that sense of presence. But there is an awareness of presence with each and every one of us right now. They call presence awareness, or an awareness of presence. Anyone who is unaware in this room right now, and you'll recognise, no, I am aware. You can't negate, you can't say you are not. You can't say you are unaware. So if you can't say you are and you're not unaware, you must be aware. Isn't that simple? What this is awareness, you might have all sorts of concepts and ideas, awareness is this and that and something else like, and it's not there or whatever, but you see, is there any time you can ever say I'm unaware? Has there been any time you could say I'm unaware? Basically, how could you say anything at all if that awareness wasn't there? What statement could you make? So I'm talking to that I am, that sense of presence is what's been told. That I am. That's the sense of presence, the believed in, or the seen sense of presence, the knowing that I am, that's speaking to that knowingness. Just to this, nothing else. So that's what needs to be broken down and looked at if we got this idea that you are this individual, you are this person. Question some of these things we've taken to believe to be real. And you realise when they say that the false cannot stand up to investigation. We've got so many beliefs we've taken on, and to say when you look into the belief and see if it's real or not, if it's not real, it will fall apart under the investigation. The false cannot stand up to the investigation. And if you're recognising the false as false, and it's falling apart under that investigation, what are you left with? If the false is seen as false, then what must be seeing it? You must be recognised from its opposite, the truth. And then you'll realise the old scriptural saying, know the truth will set you free. And what can you be free of? You can only be free of this belief that you are this person, you are this separate entity, you are this individual, which everybody around you who have never questioned it, never looked at it, have taken to be real and reinforcing it. That's where you got this unquestioned belief from. We took it on as children and reinforced it every day, our schools, unfortunately, our society, our nation, and everybody else around us reinforced it. And we've taken on the belief without questioning and believed it ourselves and stuck with it. And as I say, the belief is never the actual. It's very, very simple. It's the simplest thing you'll get in the world, because there's nothing simpler than one. But very few come to question it, come to look at it, and see for themselves. And that's all that can be happening, because nobody can do it for you, because there is nobody other than that reality that you are. All these pattern shapes and forms, as we pointed out before, are Maya. They're all illusion. Hate to say it, but you and I are Maya. We're illusionary. Seemingly solid and substantial and real. But investigate yourself and see how real you are. So that's what we do here. And I ask you to look for yourself and see for yourself. Well, take this person you believe yourself to be. You ask who you believe you are, and you say, I'm this person, Bob or Bill or Harry, or whatever your name might be. I am this person, I am this individual. And have a look at that word individual for a starter. What does it mean? Doesn't it mean undivided? When you call yourself an individual, you're dividing yourself from everything, constantly. And where does the word person come from? Well, you picked up that language when you were a little child, I'm a person, and and you question it and have a look, you'll see it came from persona, the mask. I think it was a Greek or Latin language way back in there. They called it the person, the persona. And the persona, to them, in that ancient language, meant the mask. I mean to say that we got this conceptual image, or a mental constructed mask, that we've taken ourselves to be real. This person. And so that needs to be questioned too and seen. Are you this mask? Where does the word person come from? Does it come from that ancient language? Where does all the other words come from? They come from what we've been acquired or picked up along the way. Now it tells you in the Bible, in the original Old Testament, it tells you in the beginning was the Word. The Word was with God, and the Word was God. All things were made by Him, by the Word. By this Word God. We've got the Word God and we put labels on from that. All things that were made by the Word. There was nothing made, nothing in this manifestation made. And there is, have a look at that, you'll see there is nothing we haven't got words on. Everything we've got a word on. Nothing was made by Him. All things are made by Him. There was nothing made that was made without the Word. And this Word was taken to be real. And that's what we've done. Now have a look at that. Go back and a simple bit of investigation. When did you begin? You'll say, I was born. But can any one of you actually remember your birth? Go back and have a look and you'll say, no, I can't remember my birth. I can't, can you? I doubt whether you can. Nobody can. You didn't have any words in, so you might postulate and think of something, have a conceptual idea or image that you were born, but you can't actually say, I was born. And when did you begin? We'll go back as far as your father and your mother, and you'll see that that life energy that pattern shaped and formed your father and your mother, taking the label we put on, father and mother, life energy that formed them, are made up of words, father and mother. But have a look. Can't say you were born. And so when did you begin? And you realise you didn't begin till you learnt words at about 2.5, when the capacity of reasoning developed in you. Before that you had no words for the first 2 years of your life. So then you can understand, look at that statement that you mightn't have understood in the Bible, you might read a different meaning into it. In the beginning was the Word. Because you didn't begin until the words came upon you, till you learnt words. And realise, if you look at that, every word you've ever spoken, and ever likely to speak, has been learnt. You were not born with any words, and you didn't acquire any words till this capacity of reasoning, which came upon you at about 2.5, came upon you, and you learnt words. Without that capacity of reasoning, you wouldn't have had any words, and you didn't have. Go back to your father and your mother, ask yourself, how did you begin? And see that pattern you call your father, brought about by the essence of the food that he's eaten, that pattern that's made, and the prana, the breath, by the breath and the food eaten. Breathe that life essence into it and the food keeps it going. Enabled in that pattern a little microscopic particle called the sperm to form. That comes about through the essence of the food and the breath. A microscopic particle, you can't see it with your naked eye. Now that sperm was suffused with an innate intelligence. It just wasn't a little sperm floating around willy-nilly, it was suffused with that intelligence, activity of knowing, energy. Tell it what I call intelligence energy, the activity of knowing. Look at your mother, the same thing happened to mother, that life formed, the pattern shaped and formed your mother, enabled in that pattern another little microscopic part called an ovum, or an egg to form in that pattern. You can't see that with your naked eye. But that little pattern was suffused with intelligence. That knew what to do. And you look at it, you follow it down, there's a science that will tell you that the sperm swims to the ovum, implying it's suffused with an innate intelligence. It knew what to do. It swam to the ovum. And the ovum knew what to do. It fastened itself onto the wall of the uterus. It knew what to do, and the sperm knew what to do, to swim to the ovum and to penetrate the ovum. And in that intelligence functioning, those two coming together enabled that cell to double, redouble, and the intelligence in it began to form the little embryo, the little fetus. Now that was the beginning of what you call you today. What were you doing about it then, if you think you're running the show? We've taken on the idea we're running the show. And believe, until this is, if you've questioned this, you'll see that you're not, but if you haven't questioned it, looked at it, you'll still believe that. And have a look and see. What were you doing about it then, if you think you're running the show? You'd be starting off, well, I better grow a brain, because you didn't have one then. Better grow a heart or a lung, or breathe, got hearts, lungs, kidneys, and all these organs in the body. There was no entity or nothing there doing any of that. But it was happening naturally, effortlessly, and spontaneously by that innate intelligence. It was living it, the living essence that was there then. That knew what to do. And that pattern that you are today, the shape and the form that you are today, was formed by that innate intelligence. So what can you say about it then, when you didn't have any words? You couldn't say anything at all. But about the 2.5, the capacity of reasoning developed. Now that's a capacity these human patterns have that's more developed than what it is in other animals and birds and insects. Have a look around you and see. See, a lot of the animals can't reason the same way we do. A lot of the insects and a lot of things, they're functioning spontaneously, naturally and effortlessly, but they haven't got the capacity of reasoning or thinking that we have. So that's the use for the capacity these humans have, which is more developed in these human patterns than what it is in other animals, birds and insects. But they have different capacities, like I say, they're not just dull or stupid, they have other capacities that we can't do. A bird, for instance, got better eyesight than yours and mine will ever be. That's the capacity of seeing. We can't do that. But through the capacity of reasoning, we've learned to build ourselves eyeglasses, if our eyes are failing, binoculars, telescopes and things like that that enable us to see better. The bird has a capacity of flying. We can't do that. That's a capacity more developed than what our capacity is. But through the capacity of reasoning again, we've learned to build ourselves airplanes, helicopters, balloons, things like that, and kites and things like that that enable us to fly. So this capacity of reasoning is a very useful capacity. Very useful. But it's also self-destructive. Because you look at this reasoning capacity and the thinking capacity, and you'll see it's a vibration. Like all this manifestation is a vibrating pattern of energy. An intelligence energy, I call intelligence energy, one of the better term. Intelligence, another term for intelligence, is knowing. Just ordinary knowing. Anyone who's not knowing right now. You realise, yeah, I'm knowing. And energy is a movement, it's an activity. And you realise all these activities that are going on in your body, you move your fingers, take a breath, all these things, activities, they're intelligence activities. Intelligence, the activity of knowing. It's breathing you, pulsating your heart, growing hair in your fingernail. So that activity of knowing is vibrating through these human patterns and every other living pattern. Your lungs are filling right now and emptying. Heart beating and contracting, hair and fingernails growing, food being digested. all sorts of way it's functioning, but it's functioning in an intelligent way. So it's that same intelligence that's forming galaxies out there. Look in nature, get your cue from nature and see that nature, the way it's functioning implies that is suffused with an innate intelligence. It's not just a, what would you call it? I can't think of the terms now, I'm losing my mind. Way of functioning, it's functioning intelligently. So it's that same intelligence energy that's functioning this universe, forming galaxies to form. Telling Earth to move around the sun, planets to move around, tides to come in and out, seasons coming out. That doesn't imply that intelligent innate nature itself is suffused with that intelligence. Now, can you separate yourself from nature? Do you think you're anything separate and apart from nature? Can you separate yourself from life and this earth and everything that's in it? As a separate entity, as an individual, as a person? Try it and see. We'd believe you would do it. It would take it. And when you recognise that you are no different from nature, you'll realise it's that same intelligence that's beating your heart. It's growing your hair in your fingernails. It's replacing cells in your body, digesting your food, doing all those things naturally, spontaneously and effortlessly. So tell me, where's this entity you believe yourself to be? Where did it come into it? What is it? You've taken it to be real, to be all, and you've taken this way of thinking you have that my intellect is smarter than everybody else's, or I know more, or I know less, or I'm not good enough, or I'm fearful. All the concepts we put upon ourselves. And putting those concepts on, we're keeping ourselves separate from our natural state. This is what we point to, the non-duality is the natural state. The Sagara tells us the natural state. He means as in nature. Not anywhere else, as in nature, just as happening in nature right now. And watch yourself take, if you haven't seen how nature's functioning, have another look at it. Question it and have a look and see how it's functioning naturally, effortlessly, and spontaneously. It's not functioning to some time clock. It doesn't know any time clock. It's spontaneous. It's no beginning and no end to it. And really, go back again to what we were looking at. You were born, you came into existence, you didn't learn any words till you were 2 years old. So you're getting on quite all right without the word. Your parents were looking after you, giving you assistance to feed you, seeing, you're hearing, tasting, touching, smelling, and beginning to learn concepts, ideas and images, and words. But you were doing all right without them, or reasonably well. To move along to a better grade of functioning, you had to learn acquire words and learn them, because you couldn't be a little child all the time, little baby, little. So we learnt the words. But the thing with the word is, the word is a sound, it's a vibration, and it vibrates dualistically. And have a look. Then you might understand when Shakespeare or somebody like that tells you there's nothing either good or bad, but thinking makes it so. How could that be? Well, you realise that's the word. It vibrates dualistically. It's either good or bad. And have a look and see, investigate yourself. It's pleasant, it's painful, it's happy, it's sad, it's loving, it's hating, it's positive, negative. Always vibrating dualistically. And that's what we're doing all our life while we're using these words. We're putting the dualistic concepts and ideas on ourselves and vibrating. It's all vibrating dualistic all the time. So the word is very useful when it's understood and recognised. But it's self-destructed when it vibrates in its opposite. You either like it, watch your mind, this thing you call mind, and we'll question your mind in a minute and have a look and see how real that is, and see how it's functioning. And you'll see this thing called mind is always vibrating dualistically. And have a look, you'll be really either in the past, which is your memory, or you'll be in the future, which is anticipation, imagination. And within that range it's constantly vibrating dualistically, labeling it as good or bad, as pleasant or painful, happy, sad, loving, hating, positive, negative. So that's the natural functioning of this thing we call mind, to vibrate in a dualistic form. So we need to question these things. Are you this body? Because we've taken on this conceptual pattern which we call a body, and that which is functioning in it called the mind. Taken on this idea we are this body-mind entity. We've given it some substance and seeming independent nature, and it's believed this separate entity is what I am. And that's what the label person goes on. That's the label or the mask we put on it. The conceptual image. The conceptual image made up of past events, experiences and conditioning. We add on to it. Look at these words. I am Bob, the Australian, the good fella. Got a bad childhood, I'm unhappy. Can't do this, or I'm not good enough, or I'm fearful. All these words are added onto it. And that's how the mask is formed, out of concepts. And what's a concept? Again, grab your dictionary, look up the word concept. And you'll see the concept's nothing but a mental construct. A mind-made thing, a mental construct, which we've acquired or picked up. You've got to have a look at this word, and you'll realise that the word's not the thing. The word is not the real. Take the word water. Can you drink that word? Can you swim in the word? Can you wash in the word? You can't. Does the word fire burn your mouth? Can you burn yourself? Can you cook with it? You can't. So you realise this word is not the thing. We take it to be real, and take it to be real and believe it to be real, but it's not the actual. It's just like a signpost, and we say the map is not the territory. You can look at your Melways and see where Burke Road and Whitehorse Road is, but that's not the territory. But it's the label or the word we put on it. We put the label on it and realise that every word you've ever spoken or ever learned to speak, and you're probably learning new words to this day. There's a dictionary full of words we haven't learned yet. You'll probably pick them up somewhere along the line. And some you know that I don't know, and some I know that you don't know. But words are there for everybody too. That the word is not the thing. The label is not what it actually is. As I say, the map's not the territory, so the label we put on it. If you go into Woolworths to buy a shirt, you don't come out with the label and think you got a shirt. When you go and get a car, you won't come out with the word car, with the label. You come out with the thing. That's why you need to look at this and come out with the thing, the actuality that you are. And I can tell you right here, right now, whether you believe it or not, you're not a word. You're not this body, you're not this mind. There's no poor you that's suffering or unhappy or depressed or irritable or not good enough or fearful. They're all labels we put on the I or the you or the me, which are different ways of saying, putting a word on yourself. So these are the lines we are to look along. See for yourself. Because it's been pointed out down through the scriptures, and only a few have ever looked at it and really understood it. And that's what I say. It needs to be looked at because it's been there when you look deeply enough into the scripture, some scriptures, and the people down through the ages have pointed out, it's been there all the time. But how many of us have looked at it or bothered to look at it or even question it unless we come across some teaching somewhere or some pointing that attracts us, or what do you call it? I can't think of the words now. A resonation with the word. a recognising, or something has moved you to have a look and investigate and see for yourself. And that's the only way it can come about. Otherwise, look at the population around you. They're locked in the words from the time they're born to the time they die. They can get some, what they might call better concepts and seemingly better understanding. But does it relieve any of the psychological suffering and the unhappiness, depression and the guilt that goes on? When you got those labels on these things, this is guilt, this is fear, this is depression, this is unhappiness, I am this, I am that, I am something else, taking the word to be real, you're in bondage to the word. And that bondage is a bondage of belief, because we believed in the words. Look up the dictionary and again look up the word belief, and you'll see the definition of belief is an unquestioned acceptance. Take that, an unquestioned acceptance of something in the absence of reason. We've got this concept, idea or image, and we haven't questioned it. We haven't reasoned it out. And so it goes on day in, day out. Our parents, schools and person around have told us, and we take it to be real, without investigating ourselves and questioning it. An unquestioned acceptance of something in the absence of reason, acceptance of an alleged fact. Now, there's so many of these facts are alleged to be true and valid. Accepting an alleged fact without positive knowledge or proof. Question your beliefs. Question these alleged facts. See whether they will stand up to the investigation, because that's a very important thing they tell you. The false cannot stand up to the investigation. It'll fall apart. Just a simple matter of questioning it and reasoning. It's no use just taking it for granted. Have a look along yourself. You get the taste of it, you'll go back and look again and again, even though it might seemingly come up and get into bondage again to it, out of it necessarily. But that habit was formed and reinforced over the years, day in, day out. It wasn't just a thing that came upon you, that somebody told you, and that was it. We've reinforced it constantly, day in, day out for years. So the habit pattern can seem fairly strong and seemingly solid and substantial. But every time it's looked at, it must be, if you really look at it, it must be recognised to be false, and you can no longer believe it again. And then the energy of belief can no longer go into it in its full force. What must you be left with? It must fade away till there's nothing solid there at all. It can no longer be believed in. So to have a look at this, you've got this conceptual image and how it functions is something comes up and you'll say, I like it. How do you know? Well, it's an experience you've had before, and you like the experiences we've had before, which were good. And the ones we like, we don't want them to go, not realising that they are transient. This manifestation we told you earlier is Maya. I also told you it's transient, it's constantly changing. There's nothing static whatsoever about it. The manifestation. The base and stillness which it all appears in has never changed. But what the appearance, the content that appears on it, which is nothing other than that, anyway, appearing as different, and the appearance is not the reality. So that's static, nothing static in the manifestation. So something comes up and I like it. We don't want the things we like to go, not realising that they're transient, no matter how much you love them, no matter how much you want to keep them there, or want to hang on to it, it's going to change. And have a look at that in your life. What is static about that life you call you? Have you got the same body you walked in this room with? It's not, it's changed. All the other concepts you've had. You've done this and done that. Aren't they constantly changing? That's the way of it. It's constantly transient. But we don't want the good things to go. We take it to be real. We want like the good things, we want to keep them there. So what do? Well, try to keep something there that you don't like. What do you got to do? If I try to keep these cats downstairs when they want to run upstairs, what are they going to do? They're going to resist it and find their way upstairs, around me, over me, or through me, or whatever way. But they'll find their way. So that's what we do. Trying to keep this good thing there, we don't want it to go, so we resist it. mentally or conceptually, take a grasp of it and try to keep it there. And have a look at that. What is resistance? You realise that any resistance you are in conflict. Resistance is conflict. You're in an argument with somebody, you're in conflict with them. And if something that's only good, if you're resisting it in any way, shape or form, you are in conflict with it. Now what's conflict? You realise it's a conflict, all the conflicts you've had that have made you unhappy, depressed, guilty, fearful, anxious, depressed or whatever. Conflict is uneasiness. It's anxiety, it's stress, it's guilt, it's shame, it's remorse. Another word for that uneasiness is disease. So there's a resistant conflict and disease going on with us constantly. Something comes up and I don't like. Well, what do we do with the things we don't like? We try to get rid of them. Instead of leaving them as it is, we try to get rid of them. Again, we resist them. Where we resisted them trying to keep them there before, now we resist them and try to push them away now. Again, conflict and disease. Now we might get the idea that where all your psychological suffering comes about from. The constant resistance that's going on within each and every one of us. Constant resistance. Because the happiness doesn't last for very long. Because it'll vibrate to its opposite. So you see that resistance, that belief that when I'm resisting is some conceptual idea or me that's resisting it, the believed in conceptual image. Me is the cause of all my psychological suffering. And the effects of that cause are anxiety, stress, guilt, shame, remorse, depression. Have a look at it. Whatever psychological problems you've got are the results of relating to that cause, me. And then go back to your scriptures. What is that? It's called cause and effect. Isn't it karma? You hear so much, my karma, this and karma happened to me, this and that. Well, that's all that karma is, cause and effect. And ask yourself, now if you see that, that's cause and effect, what happens if I wasn't relating anything to a cause? If me is the cause of all my psychological, where can the psychological suffering lodge if I'm not being related to the cause, me? And you don't have to be a road scholar to work that out. If I'm not relating to a cause, where can the effect lodge? Well, you see, where no cause that you're relating to, there can be no effect to lodge on it. So you can be free of all your psychological suffering, just recognising it for what it is. And people carry on with this belief, karma, without questioning it, without looking into these facts. Because they've been told it's there, and another newfangled idea that somebody brought about years ago, and they keep reinforcing it, believing it instead of realising it's a fiction. Have a look and see for yourself. I ask you to do it by looking along those lines. Everybody is seeing right now. Everybody is hearing right now. Isn't that a fact? Anyone in the room who's not seeing and not hearing? Then you realise, yeah, that's a fact. I'm seeing and I'm hearing. But ask yourself this. What's seeing? Does my eye tell me I see? Well, my eye, my physical eye, is not saying, look at this, Bob, look at that, that's good or that's bad. My eye can't say anything at all. Can yours? Is your eye saying, look at this or look at this? Again, not hard to do. See, it's there before your very eyes and ears and reasoning. It's been there all the time. My eye can't say I'm seeing this or seeing that. But the seeing is happening through the eye. It is the instrument through which the seeing is happening. If I haven't got that eye, what can I see around me? Can't see anything. But that instrument, the seeing itself, can't say anything at all. But it's translated through the thought. I see. So it's just thinking, it's conceptual imaging, this thinking that comes up as thought, with the thought, I see. And isn't that a word we've learnt? I see. So the same thing with the hearing. Hearing's happening through the ears, but my ear's not saying, listen to this, Bob, that's a good sound, I like this one, I don't like the other. My ear can't say anything at all. It never has, never could, or never will be, but I believed it could. Oh, I'm hearing this, I'm hearing that. The ear's not saying I hear anything, it can't. But it's the instruments in which the hearing's happening. And again, it's translated by the thought. The thought I hear. The thought I see. The thought I hear. We'll go back and have another look. That thought I see. Can a thought see? We'll have a look. Shut your eyes, close your eyes, look around the room and see what you're actually seeing without a thought. With the thought, I should say, in the room, with your eyes closed. And you realise you can't see anything at all with your eyes closed, with the thought. So you realise this thought I see can't see. The same with the hearing. Put your hands over your ears and see if you can hear with the thought. You realise the thought I hear can't hear. Yet this thought I see and the thought I hear have been with us constantly. And what do? We formed a conceptual picture of what we think it's me, Bob the Australian, this conceptual image. We think that's seeing and hearing. But when you realise it's just a thought, and the thought can't see, the thought can't hear. And take it a little bit further. If the thought I see can't see, and the thought I hear can't hear, the thought I see can't see, is this thought I am aware? Is that my awareness? Well, ask myself, am I unaware right now? No. Haven't I been unaware all the time this talk's been going on, unless you've gone to sleep on me? You say, yes, no, I haven't been unaware, I've been aware all the time. Was I thinking I'm aware, I'm aware, I'm aware? No, I wasn't. But the awareness was there all the time. So the thought I am aware is not your awareness. What about this thought I choose? That's another one. We all think we choose our thoughts. If you could choose a thought, why would you ever choose an unhappy or miserable thought? Do you choose to be fearful? Do you choose to be angry? Do you choose to be unhappy? You don't. So you realise the choice. The thought I choose can't choose. So what have you learnt? The thought I see can't see, the thought I hear can't hear, the thought I'm aware can't be aware, the thought I choose can't choose. So this thought up entity, me, Bob the Australian, the good fellow, the labels I put on this thought, me, Bob, can't see, can't hear, can't be aware, can't hear, and that's what the ego is. It's all of the ego is, a thought up image. It has no power or any independent nature to stand on its own. Because how many thoughts or feelings or emotions can a corpse have? Corpse can't do any of those things. Let life essence out of the body, it can't do anything. So that thought up conceptual image, it's got the brain, it's got the heart, it's got the lungs, all there. Without that life essence coursing through it, it's not a bit of good to you. So the thought up image cannot do a thing. It's that life essence that we're not even noticing, that pure intelligence, its energy, the beingness, the life essence, the pure, ever-fresh presence awareness, whatever concept you like to put in, is doing everything. Not only is it forming this universe and everything in it, and any other universe you might like to postulate or think of, or anything at all. It's forming this pattern, shape and form, this body you call you, and it's living it. And that's all that's ever happened. It's never been separate, it's never been divided, there's never been any you or any separate entity. So you're going to continue to stay in this bound belief that you are an individual, a person. You can if you like. But if it had been so wonderful, you wouldn't be here questioning this. You'd be still out there trying to live it to its full, still doing whatever you do. But you've recognised a little bit more to it, so have a look, investigate and see for yourself. And recognise if there's nothing there, what must be left? The life itself. And then you can understand what Christ said when he said, I am the way, I am the truth, I am the life. He wasn't talking about himself as that sense I am. Talking about that I am, that sense of presence, that all that in the Thagata say with the I amness, that's all he's pointing out. Not staying with the thought I am, staying with the sense of presence that translates as the thought I am. And that I am, we're using that thought that's been translated, is the way. It is the truth. That I amness is the way. It is the truth. It is the life. And realise and recognise you are that. So there you are. That's what it is. So get into it. Tell us all about it. Argue, question it, do what you like. Who you're applauding must be yourself. That is all there is. And that's good. Why not applaud yourself?
Oh, if the one
hand clap.
100 will be.
Bob, I was going to say maybe the people would like to listen to this.
Speak up, Adrian.
Yeah. Just maybe it's of interest anyway, because I wasn't totally aware of it or anything, although I was aware of it, but it never meant anything much to me. Bob would reflect back about 20 years ago that I was sort of trying to study this thing with a student of Bob's who had got a real grasp of it, and at the time I was diagnosed with a large tumour in the right kidney, and everybody was pretty concerned about it except Bob and my sponsor and myself. And life just sort of went on, and but things would come up and it would interfere with my life, and eventually my doctor, just before he was retiring, and he was going through all the sort of paperwork and that sort of thing, and I was going to go to another doctor, he said something to me. He said, in all the time I've been a doctor, I have never had another patient like you. And of course I never questioned it. It wasn't an ego trip, or it was just, I let it go. And, but recently, about 6 weeks ago, I had this massive hemorrhage from the kidney, and I was, passing pure blood, and I was in a lot of pain and everything, and I finished up, my partner, and she runs around like a chook with that head off, my daughter's just carrying on, and anyway, I finished up in the hospital, and they eventually stuck me down and gave me an X-ray and found out what was there, and came in and said to me, "Are you aware that you've got this whatever in the kidney, And I said, "Oh yeah, I'm aware of it, and I've been aware of it for some time. Well, we've got to take it out. We've got to take your kidney out, and carrying on." I'm just saying, no, thank you, it's all right, And they're getting very upset and angry with me because this is the way they are. Anyway, when I just left the hospital, they said, "Well, you've got to go." But the point I'm sort of saying is that years ago, of course, before I come in contact with any of these people or any of this teaching, but more so before I started to do what they said and question everything, go within, don't run away, look at it and question it and realise that you're not anything but yourself, and you're the seer, you're yourself. Anything you can see is not yourself, and all the rest of it, And I never gave it any more much thought, but I followed that and I questioned all that. And the whole thing was that I can realise now that I wasn't afraid of death. One of them said to me, "Aren't you scared? Aren't you frightened? Why do you want to be like this?" And I says, "I'm not afraid of death." And I'm not really afraid of death. And I don't identify with the body anymore. I don't identify with any of that stuff. But that's why they think that they don't see somebody like me. because they haven't had anybody like me, because they haven't been in touch with this sort of thing. They haven't done the work that, you know, I've been encouraged to do by people like Bob and my sponsor, you know. And it's not just a theory, it's something that comes about through the work. And the constant question, constant investigation, the constant looking. And you don't aware of it. You don't think you're somebody different or somebody special. You're just different. You're just not in that same space, that same headspace, because that has left you. That's left me that concept of on the body, on the mind. You know, I'm going to die. You know, what I am was always here, and it'll always be here. And I know that today. You know, it's just a part of me, and it's not a theory. If it was a theory, it wouldn't work in those circumstances, and those people wouldn't notice it. So this is a practical thing. It's a thing that's of huge advantage. And you know, it's just a matter of not seeing the illusion. You know, see this pussycat? I'm allergic to them, and they make me my eyes water. You know, but that's just a reality too. Yeah. So anyway, if that's, I hope that might help somebody. That's all. That's the only reason why I'm saying it. I'm not saying it for any other reason. And Bob's been talking about it all the time, trying to put it into words, trying to encourage us to actually try to get that insight and observation, and then it will leave us, you know. It's only through that observation of those words, of those concepts, of those images, or whatever you want to call them, that they leave you then. And when they leave you, it's a freedom. It's not something that doesn't give you any sort of the ego. Even this is the part of the ego, and that's why it's not an ego trip for me. But it's just something that's happened. And I tell you what, if I was like most people, I can't understand, you know, that I'm not saying, yes, doctor, quickly do your thing, whatever you want to do, you do it, you take my kidney out, you know, well, it's all over to you. They feel as if they're out of place, or if they're not doing their job, or whatever. I don't know what it is, but they can't cope with it very well.
I had to rush to, just to add on that, I had to rush to Melbourne. I got a call from my mother that's, you know, Dad, he's doing dialysis 3 times a week, and that I had to, that he's been, he was shaking in the, he had a urethra put on, you know, because of his prostate as well. He wasn't able to pee. And so he was going through that, and then they took it off, and he started shaking in the dialysis. And so they're ringing up, you know, you've got to come down here, because, you know, I live up near the Gold Coast. And I'm going, well, you know, is he dead yet? Like, you know, what's happening? And because you know, like doctors can work things out, you know, but in their emotional state, come up, you've got to come down and support everyone. And so shaking, they took him to the hospital, and he got an infection with whatever was going on into the bag. You know, it came back into the blood, so he got an infection to the blood, and it was quite serious at that stage. You know? So at that point, I came down and you know, went into the hospital scene where you can see everything going on there, life and death. And he was very happy to see me, of course, but you could see his fear, you know, and as soon as, you know, the family came there to see him, you know, he started crying, and his acceptance of his own self felt better, and, you know, and slowly he got better. And then yesterday we got him out of hospital, so he got cleared up, his blood got cleared up, and then we went back home, and he becomes the same old grumpy old man again, you know, sitting there with my mum and they're yelling and they're screaming at each other and they're, you know, and I'm just watching the whole Leela, the whole play, how he's turning back into that robot again, you know. So at one point he was next to death, you know, and the doctor said, you know, look, at this point you've got to tell us what to do, because if he goes the wrong way we may have to, you know, take off his life support or whatever. Right? But you see how you faced it and how other people face it is very different. And then you're given that chance again and you go back to the same old yelling at each other, right?
Mm-hmm.
They go home and they're like, you didn't buy the milk, you know, like that.
The habit patterns don't change.
Yeah, you know, like you go, you know, but at that point, you know, at that point that you were talking about, you know, is a very defining point. You know.
It may be transformational or it may not, and it's up to life really. For some people do get transformed.
He was back in his own usual self, telling, you know, like same pattern, same habits, the same.
Yeah.
You didn't put the rubbish out. You know, like,
It has to, Bob. You don't. You notice little ones as they lose their strength over you, but you don't notice the overall pattern over a period of time. That this is if it's constantly, you're constantly working on it. That identification, that illusion goes.
Turn way back 40 years ago, isn't it?
Yeah. Yeah, go
Fella
back 40 years ago and tell them what I was.
They called the Irish Bill that
Yeah.
Adrian was listening to the Irish Bill talking. He was a wild Irishman. It was kind of one of the first that came to hear me years ago. He used to be crooked on the world. He was an Irish bloke and he brought up a Catholic. And I think he had a bad handling at the priest and all the rest of it. He got crooked on the world, everybody. And he said, arseholes, he says. They talk about souls, he says. I got 3 of them. The sole of each of me shoes me arsehole, he'd say. Anyhow, he got the cancer in the...
You got the same thing I got.
In the... Where was it, in the kidneys? Where did he get the cancer? In the kidneys, was it?
He got it in the kidney, yeah.
Yeah.
He killed him, yeah.
And he living in the boarding house, and he said, I stay here, the boarding house lady will kick me out because, you know, they don't want to keep any sick person here. So we put him up upstairs and above the shop where we were. And the doctor used to come and see him.
And he died on you there.
Yeah, he died.
I was holding his hand.
And the doctor kept coming along. The doctor...
Tell him how it happened when you had the health food shop here, and the people are all in the health food shop. So they got Billy, put him on the stretcher, covered him up. They taking him out to take him to the morgue, and they just walked out through the shop. People didn't even take any notice.
Anyhow, he wasn't afraid of death. And the doctor used to come and see him. And the doctor was so amazed at the way he was handling death that the doctor came along to the groups for a while, didn't he?
Yeah. With what?
He came along to the groups for a while.
He came for the non-duality.
Yes,
Living by demonstration. That's the way.
Yeah.
It's a long time ago now.
It's strange, isn't it, really, you know, that it's a negation of identification, and that's really all it is, because we don't know what we are what we are.
Yeah.
But you're saying we are it, but we can't conceptualise it, of course, or even perceive it, really, but it's the negation process. And it certainly takes away that illusionary, unreal, exaggerated, damaging fear that we have as individuals, and when we really need it in situations like I've just explained, you know.
That's a good word, unrelated.
taste of it, hasn't he? Tell us about it.
I'm getting a taste of it, but I switch back in and out of it, you know, and I just want to refer to something I've been grappling that Terry infused me with, and that was like, if you're aware of something, and if you're aware of your thoughts, if you're aware of your mind, if you're aware, it's not real. And I just get stuck at that point.
That's a good point, to get stuck. Question everything until you're left with nothing, because what's real is the nothing.
It's a big
yeah,
jump.
there's...
You have to interrogate at that point.
Now, Whitney,
It's a contemplation.
when you get into these intellectual arguments with yourself, there's only one way you can. You just say full stop. You just say I'm not going there, because any form of intellectual argument you get into with yourself is just going to keep going. The more you ponder something, the more energy you give it, and so it will tend to go on. If you just say full stop, I'm not going there, where are you left? You're left there in the moment. And so the conceptualising will stop.
The ego wants to justify the cause and the root of its existence.
Is there such a thing as an ego? But you're going to come back, question that, you see.
You can't get rid of something that never existed in the first place.
You draw a picture of your ego and
People say I've got to get rid of the ego. Well, how can you get rid of something that doesn't exist? When you point that out to them, they say, "Oh, hang on."
You're the mistake.
But
we
It doesn't make sense to try and get rid of something that doesn't exist.
But what Terry was saying, if you're aware, like we're aware, okay? And I'm aware of you, I'm aware of that, then I'm aware of my thoughts. But you're saying it's not real.
What I'm saying is, if you can be aware of it, how can it be you? And the other,
Because who's becoming aware of it?
well, if you can be aware of it, you've got to be separate from it.
Yeah, but all the movement of the mind has to be seen from something that's not moving. See, time can only be seen from a point of timelessness. How else can you make a start, a duration and a finish other than conceptually? You create a conceptual start, right, a conceptual duration and a conceptual ending. Where else can that be done except in thought? And it can only be done from a point of non-thought, of nothingness, of emptiness, and it appears as a paradigm within you. Beginning, duration, end. But the beginning and the ending is still now. So that's why when I get on a plane now, I have this really weird way of getting rid of jet lag. I'm sitting in the departure lounge and I say, right, it's now. Sitting on the plane, it's now. So that 8-hour flight, when you get to the other end, you say it's now. That 8 hours I just sat on the plane is now. It didn't really happen. And all of a sudden you feel, well, why would I be tired? Because that was just imaginary anyway. You may well feel tired, but it's hard to explain. It's just you don't get caught up in that linear paradigm anymore.
you extricate.
You know, you see it. No, you don't. It's not that you don't get caught up in it. You see it for what it is.
But the riddle that Terry gave to Simon is actually... It's interesting, because the way you, Simon, you remembered it, is that this is not real, is correct. It is unreal. Everything in the manifestation is Maya, is illusion, is the emptiness creating a form out of itself. It's like ocean waving. It isn't real. But the way Terry gave you a riddle, it is the who am I investigation. It is not really about recognizing forms as emptiness, which is also a correct way, but it's kind of more advanced. More to question your own identity is kind of closer, is easier, is more personal. If you see that everything you are aware of cannot be who you are aware of your body, so you are the awareness, and the body is the object in awareness. You are aware of your thinking, so you are the awareness, and the thinking or the thoughts are actually objects in the awareness. Also the emotions, the feelings, the sensations, everything, and then scenes that you are looking at, they are sensations in the field of seeing. The sounds are sensations, so they are not who you are. You are the awareness or the knowingness. It is correct to say they're all unreal, that's true, but that's really, that is the contemplation which takes you somewhere else.
That's right.
And if you start from investigating your own identity, who am I, that part of everything is nothing comes out naturally, because when you really discover that everything that you can be aware of is not who you are, so you kind of netty, you negate every single thing that is an object, and you will remain as pure subjectivity that cannot be grasped. So you basically cognizing nothing, cognizing emptiness, like Buddhists call it. So this, when you recognize yourself as the intelligent nothing, you also recognize everything else as nothing. But that's kind of a second, there are no steps or stages, but that's a natural consequence of realizing your true nature as the cognizing emptiness. It's just easier this way.
Yeah. Okay.
What is aware? You're aware, but what is aware of being aware? See, so you can go. You can say, well, who am I? Right? Which for some people, you bring in a personal pronoun. So take away the personal pronoun. You say, well, what am I, or what is aware? Because you're aware. What is aware? And the only answer is awareness is aware of being aware. Like I said to you the other night, like if you listen to a hypnosis tape, it's like being in deep sleep. You'll drift off. But you're still aware. How do you know you're still aware? Because at the end of the hypnosis tape, the guy will say something like, oh, now you're going to wake up. And then you wake up. Well, how do you know to wake up? How do you hear that voice? Because you're aware all the time. It's just you've stopped conceptualizing, so you think you're unaware. You're not unaware, you've just stopped conceptualizing. But awareness is listening to everything, because if a car door slams or your security light goes on, or you know,
If the alarm clock goes off.
yeah, something stirs you, you'll immediately, well, see, who's aware? So awareness, you're aware of being unaware is the way to put it. It's just words.
Yeah, there is awareness, because that's not really you being aware, but yeah, sure.
Yeah, awareness is there 24/7. That's what I'm saying. It's there 24/7. See, as I said to you the other day, right? The awake part of you. Now, this is a fact. This is a scientific fact. You're flat out remembering 10 bits of information. Someone gives you a phone number. You go, oh, yeah, 5555. You're flat out remembering your passport number, right? You go, what is it? You always get your passport out to double check. But that unconscious part of you, or that awareness part of you, they reckon it's something like 2.3 million bits of information it can process. So in other words, you're at the airport, you go, what's my passport number again? But you're looking around the airport, and there might be 100 people of different races, and your knowing will be going Indian, Filipino, or Asian. You know what I mean? You're not labelling them, but you just know as you're scanning around the airport, you can scan maybe 1,000 bits of information and know what it is without labelling it. See, that's that's the intelligence, energy, the acquired intellect. What you've learned, no match for it. Can't match for it. Because that's second-hand information. As I said to you and Darren there, it was Darren or you, what we call history doesn't exist. Doesn't exist what we call history. All we've got is some person's version of it.
Yeah.
The people who won the war, you know, or the people who were sitting beside the Prime Minister who made all the decisions, writes a book about it. You never hear a guy who was cleaning the bog out, you know, and oh geez, bombs dropped and killed my whole family. He doesn't write a book. You don't hear about the man in the street back in the 17th century who maybe cleaned the horse shit up or something. No. You don't hear about that. We just hear one version of history. And it's usually the winners who killed all the other people and rewrote history saying they were a bunch of arseholes. We had to get rid of them. We never hear the other side of the story because they all got killed.
Yes. Yes.
And if
It's
you
always
do,
taken.
it makes you laugh. because I did when I was working around the
Yeah.
world and driving ships. I would hear American version of a history of Second World War, and then I would hear Russian version of the Cold War history, and it was just hilarious.
But
It
what
was
is it though? It's all relativity. It's
Absolutely.
relative.
Yeah.
It's everything's relative to your. See, the acquired intellect is basically what you were told when you were a kid, what your parents told you, what your schools told you,
Yeah,
what you studied, what the books you read. That's about it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and that's what becomes normal.
And that
to you.
has nothing to do with what really happened.
absolutely.
You just have a relative version of what happened, or what you think happened.
And then you take it personally and you think this is your opinion and you're
Yeah.
entitled to it and you want to defend it.
It's all those conservative. Like
It's
at the
no
moment,
opinion
like
is
at the
yours.
moment, it's like Trump. I mean, Trump. You got to blame him for every single problem in the world now. It's just lobbed at him. You know, it's Trump. All the racism, all this Trump, Trump, Trump. Just pick out somebody and just blame it on him. You know what I mean? Like in the Second World War, you'd swear that was Hitler by himself who created all the shit, right? It wasn't a whole group of people or a whole country of people. It was just the one guy, according to history, you know?
Yeah, it's a good thing to recognize that no opinion that you ever have is really your opinion. That everything that you ever learned, that's what Bob says in a spiel, everything that you ever knew, you learned.
Now,
You learned from somebody else.
the
It's,
one that annoys me is when people say, oh, you're prejudiced. I always say, of course I'm prejudiced.
That's
I
what
can't
you learned.
help but be prejudiced.
Everyone.
Every word that comes out of my mouth is prejudice because all I can do is refer to some prior experience I had, which is prejudiced. I'm going to have a version of what I think. It's prejudiced. And people will say, oh, you're prejudiced. Or, you know. "Of
And
course I'm
also you
prejudiced."
you
Can't
will
help but be prejudiced.
you will make sense, you know, you've got the experience and the way you assign the meaning to experience will be totally according to your conditioning. If you are predominantly fear-oriented, your story about what happened will be about the security. If you are anger-oriented, your story will be about the violence, whatever the conditioning, you know, you can say the fact happened this way or the other, but the meaning assigned is absolutely mechanically taken, made up in the computer there, according to what the computer, what
Well,
information
you
stored.
look at historical records that were written by army commanders and that. It's all about warfare and strategy. Oh, we did this and we did that. It's their version of how they won the war. You never hear from the man in the street who was going about his daily business and living a... It's like they say, the old saying, history doesn't record the peaceful man. It makes no record of him.
Yes.
History is just littered with despots, warmongers, assholes, right? Who left their mark. But the guy who got up every day,
Yeah, the silent
the
majority,
peaceful
they don't rate.
man, he's not recorded. There's no record of him. You know, the guy who went up and went to work every day, had a few kids, raised his family, then died. There's no record of him, and there's billions of them, you know. History is just a whole group of people who were, just left a mark because of what they did.
Yeah.
And it's usually violent.
Can we just want to come back to what it is that, what have you actually seen? What have you seen so far? What are you aware of so far?
There's a lot of noise.
And you're aware of that there's thoughts that just
Yeah.
come and go and...
Yeah,
And-
and so by becoming aware of it, I'm not getting so attached to them.
Yeah.
Okay.
Can I ask, because you touched on something before, so you see that, you're starting to see that,
Yeah.
yeah?
Yeah.
What's the ego in reference to that?
Well, this is the trick. The ego. The ego doesn't want to let go. What's in reference to that? So I've got there's the mind, there's the ego.
Can we give another name to the ego? Can you call it something else or not? Is there something that... Is there anything else you could call that? Because you said the ego doesn't want to let go.
Yeah.
doesn't want to let go.
Yeah.
Can you give it another name other than ego?
Control, fear.
No.
Yeah.
Okay. So there's the thoughts that go on
Mm.
that you're aware of.
Mm.
Yeah. There's also an ego. Yeah.
Yeah.
And there's also you. Is that right?
And feelings.
And there's you in there somewhere.
Yeah.
Yeah?
Yeah. Okay.
So there's,
yeah.
can you
Okay.
see what I'm doing?
Yeah.
There's an ego.
Yeah.
There's the thoughts that you're becoming aware of.
Yeah.
And yet there's still this self-identified me there that this is all happening to.
Yeah.
Yeah?
Mm-hmm.
Do you think the ego just might be you,
Mm-hmm.
me,
Mm-hmm.
instead of it being an appendage attached to a me?
Mm-hmm.
I call it the mego
Amigo.
because it's one and the same thing.
Amigo.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just that what we do, and we're taught to do this. We're really taught to do this. You know, I have an ego. There's me and my pet ego that sits on my shoulder that, you know, does all this.
Mm-hmm.
You go looking for the ego, you can't actually find it.
No.
You can't.
No.
You can s but there's that won't let go is you, not the ego.
The persona, the story.
Yeah. So the first part of that awareness that you're currently experiencing, being able to watch thoughts come and go.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Fantastic. Okay. But you've yet to see that the identified self,
Yeah.
you that you believe yourself to be, is also in that you're watching. It's not
Yeah,
separate
because,
from it.
like, it's, you know, there's part of me saying, I'm going to watch those thoughts, and I'm not going.
Yeah, but it's
to-
thoughts. But it's thoughts saying, "I'm going to watch those thoughts." It's one and the. It's
Yeah.
one and the same thing. Do you understand?
Yeah, no, I get that.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So really, the first part's easy. Yeah, okay, I can become aware that thoughts come and go.
Mm.
The second part is a lot more difficult.
Mm.
Seeing that you, your self-identity, is also in there. It's not separate from it. We think it's separate from it because we say, I can be aware of thoughts. So we think, and here's the trap, we think that is aware of thoughts is me.
Mm.
And it's not. It's awareness.
Mm.
So, another way. Let me try this. Are you conscious right now?
Yeah.
Are you aware right now?
Yep.
Okay. This is only a trick question. It's a really direct question, given the answers that you just gave me. Okay. Who is it that's conscious, and who is it that's aware?
The body making
The body.
it. Mm-hmm.
The body.
The eye. The. Mm.
So the body's aware of thoughts, and it's the body that's aware of the room and space and other people and so on. It's the body.
Let's.
Which bit of it?
The eye.
Try. Look.
Yeah.
Look. Try and talk from your direct, actual experience, from what you actually know,
Mm.
not what you think is going to be the correct answer.
Mm.
Just from what you know.
Mm.
So you say, I am aware, or I am conscious. Who's owning that awareness and who's owning that consciousness? Who's the my that's saying my consciousness, my awareness?
It's got to be something that's not those two things.
Mm.
Yeah.
It is, but it isn't.
Look, that illusory
Mm.
self-identity
Mm.
that we have,
Mm.
that we're trying to see through, actually trying to see, is that the right way to put it? But I'm going to say that we're trying to see.
Yeah.
Yeah. That illusory self is not conscious. It is not aware.
Okay.
It's not real.
I get it. Yeah.
It's not real. So there is just awareness. There is just consciousness, but it's not yours. You're in that stuff that you're seeing.
Mm.
You're in there.
Mm.
Okay?
Mhm.
And you feel, so what what that false sense of self does, it identifies with that sense of presence, or it identifies with that sense of awareness and thinks it's that. It thinks it's that sense of awareness. Bobby says often in his spiel, you know, are you aware? Is there anybody in the room that's not aware right now? And I would, you know, unless one has awoken to their true nature, absolutely awoken to their true nature, no one is aware in this room right now if they're coming from their me. No one. Because the me, that self-identified me, cannot be aware. The awareness or the consciousness is prior to the me.
But aren't you aware of the me?
Yeah. Who's aware of the me?
So does the world,
Which it means it's prior.
do you appear in the world, or does the world appear in you?
If you like, it's
No,
awareness.
that's a serious question.
It's awareness that's manifesting that me.
Yeah.
It's me. It's the awareness that owns that illusory concept of a me. But we think it's the other way around. It's my awareness. It's my consciousness.
Yeah.
And it's that.
Well, I was going to
it's
say
that self-identity.
There's two awarenesses, right? Like as
No.
no.
There's not two me.
Like
There's not two. Don't even try and go there.
Yeah.
There's not two. But look, you're on the right track. You're totally on the right track. Just observing that, totally on the right track. You need to also start to see that this self-identity, this me, or the ego, the me-go, whatever you want to call it, is also contained in that you're aware of. It's not separate from it.
Right.
It's not, there's that you're aware of, a me and awareness. It's not. It's totally
Let
not.
me try and use Bob's analogy of the computer, because this one kind of clears up the idea of the body being aware, because it feels like the body using the eyes is aware of the content. So if you take the computer, you have the camera, and the camera is viewing, looking at the room. Is really the computer aware of what the camera is seeing? Now you have the speaker, the computer is hearing all the sounds. But is the computer aware? Even if you have, let's say you log yourself to Gmail or whatever, and you've got your avatar with your name, your sex, everything. Is that little icon there created as your avatar, is that aware of what is going on inside the computer? No, you gotta have someone who is completely outside of the computer to be aware of the content. So now your body is the computer, your eyes are cameras, they are registering things. Your software in the brain is translating the impulses into the pictures that are being compared with the memory. That's why you recognize everything. So this is the software going on. This is the hardware, the computer. So is the computer and its software aware of itself? Can't, is dead. The computer and the software is dead. So if there is an awareness, like, you know, in the computer there is a power going through the computer, enabling it to function. With the body, there is a power going through your body, enabling it to function. But what is awareness? Awareness will be prior to the computer and prior to the power that is powering it. So the awareness is something that is completely ungraspable, because if you can grasp it, if you make it to something, okay, there is someone who sits in front of the computer and is watching it, or maybe that's, you know, no, there, someone who's sitting in front of the computer is also being a content in the awareness. Awareness is a no thing that is intelligent with the capacity of cognizing. Everything that is in it is not aware, it's just an expression of it.
is it?
Yes.
So it's not the
is
body
akin
being.
to consciousness.
Yeah, you can call
Like,
it
you know, the
consciousness
label
as a
aware-
product.
Awareness is the same thing.
Yeah.
But the thing about electricity is
You know what I mean?
It's the same.
the
Like,
power that
it's
runs
the
the
labels.
computer. You
You
can't
don't,
see
you don't,
either.
you don't
Yeah.
have
No,
put a name
totally.
on
It doesn't exist. It's just
No.
another expression.
No,
You're
it
aware.
exists only when it's reflected against something else. Like awareness is pure until
Yeah.
something's reflected.
So
on
The
it.
effect can be
Yeah, so
seen,
it is.
No.
It is
but
the
you
way.
can't see it itself.
With
It is an
label.
expression. It is a form.
It's
So-
like when you turn on that Tesla machine, right? You can't see any electricity until you put your hand up against it, right? Like the mirror, right?
Yeah, you can't
It's
see the
just
wind
pure and
either.
clean. before until something walks in front of it and reflects it. It's like your awareness. Your awareness is fresh and empty, then somebody will appear within it. Right? Then they'll maybe walk away, then the emptiness is still there again. So everything's just an appearance.
And when you're
Even
sleeping,
when
you're
it's
aware.
measured, it means it's already an expression.
Well,
It's
that's what
not,
the word phenomena means. The
Yes.
word phenomena means something that's appearing.
Consciousness is
That's
absent.
right.
Yeah.
It's
Yes.
just appearing.
Yeah,
So it has no reality.
that's
It's
right.
just
So
an
in that,
appearance.
so in that
Mm.
there is
Yeah.
in that analogy there is a distinction.
I've got a good one for you about language too. You know the word
Nothing will shift in the
passion
computer when it's off.
or compassion?
Yeah.
You know what the real meaning of that is? I was telling you about it the other day. We were talking about his woes with women, right?
Mm.
Now, the word compassion, right? Com means with, of
Uh-huh.
course. Passion means to suffer.
Yeah.
In Latin, passio,
Mm.
to suffer. So compassion means you're suffering with somebody. You go and suffer with them.
I
But
see.
you apply that to a relationship. When someone says, I'm really passionate about her, I'm really passionate about, or he's a passionate person, that word means to suffer.
Hmm.
Wow.
So you suffer because, especially you're in a, remember what we were talking about?
That
You're
was-
in a
that was
passionate
the old me.
relationship.
That's the old me.
Mm.
What happens when you're in a passionate relationship and you think, oh, I'm so passionate about that person? What happens if they're suddenly not there?
Yeah.
You suffer.
Mm.
That passion, you know?
Mm. Yeah.
Because it's
really.
relative then. It becomes a relativity, a duality.
Uh-huh.
I need that other person to feel complete and whole.
Mm.
I don't feel complete and whole unless I'm sleeping with her or whatever, right?
Yes.
So they're suddenly gone, you think you're empty. I'm only half a person again.
Mm.
That's why Tantra and all these things don't work. You know, those yogas and that, they talk about tantric sex and all that.
Mm.
They don't work.
Mm.
They're dualistic. What happens if that tantric partner all of a sudden gives you the boot?
Mm.
You're left feeling separate again. Oh, shit. Got to find another one to feel whole again.
Isn't that just about pleasure? Chasing pleasure?
Of course.
So it is effective.
Gratification.
Yeah, the aim is to gain pleasure, and if the
Well,
pleasure
there's
is
nothing
delivered,
wrong with pleasure, is there? We're not going to
Yeah.
go down the church's road, are we, and demonise pleasure.
As long as
No,
you realise
no.
it's duality and the other side of it's pain.
I've had it-
As
Yeah.
long
we've
as you
seen-
realise that,
we've
there's
seen
nothing
enough
wrong
of-
with it. It's neither
look.
right or wrong.
Look, someone brought up homosexual the other day, and they're going on about how better we treat gay people and how we've evolved and we... I'm thinking, hang on a minute. I said, hang on a minute. I used to live in Dixon Street down by the beach, and all the gay guys would be gather in the car park. This is in the 60s, right? And they're obviously added in the toilets and all that. Nobody discriminated against them. Nobody went down there and beat the shit out of them. Nobody went down there and chased them away, right? It was a case of, look, don't go down there, look, leave them alone, out of sight, out of mind, right? So your average person was ambivalent. They just sort of, don't worry about it. Let them do what they want to do. Who demonised it? Who demonised all those things? Churches. They were the ones that made into an abomination and they're evil or whatever. Oh, it's man, it's got to be man and woman, blah, blah, blah. They're bad people and all that. So it wasn't your average person that did that. Your average person just said, look, don't worry about it. My mum always just said, oh, don't go down there.
but the
You know,
truth of
leave
the
them,
of
you
the
know?
matter is that even church is just another way life expresses.
Well,
And
of
it's
course.
it's a painful way, but it is just another way because the duality, you have day and night, you have pleasure, pain, you have so you have church, you have angels and devils, and you have
And it's passed on.
Yeah.
My point is it's passed on. The people
Mm.
will pass it on.
yeah,
As you were saying
yeah.
before, as you said before, your father's 85, never really learned anything, never really changed. Now at my brother's funeral, the priest got up and he quoted a few scriptural sayings, and I just automatically knew what the real meaning was of that scripture was.
Mm.
And I was going to tell people later, you know what he was saying there, you're not real. I thought, no, I'm not going to say that.
Yeah.
But I thought, this poor old bastard, he doesn't even understand his own scripture. He's probably been talking it for 40 years,
Yeah.
Often the case. And then,
Right.
the fact that the church inflicts so much suffering on them, it may actually, in a long run, be a little bit of the water on the river of their own awakening. Because life is mysterious. Sometimes the more pain is the more kind of, it prompts you to investigate.
Do you know the story? But do you tell her this? You know the story about someone left Bob's book in the church up in
Yes.
Queensland, and the priest rang Bob up.
Yeah.
Know that story?
No.
Someone left Bob's book, What's Wrong with Right Now, in a church, and the priest picked it up and read it. And he ended up calling Bob up saying, listen, you're onto something here. What did he say to you, Bob? He said, I can't remember the story.
They sacked him out of the church.
They
He
sacked
started handling them around him.
So they kicked him and defrocked him, did they?
But he took the congregation with him.
They didn't defrock him, but they kicked him out. But he took the congregation away with him. So he's better off than he ever was. He was getting all the take, and the church
I
wasn't
know what
getting
I forgot to bring tonight. Did Darren send you that thing? Oh, I should have bought it and read it to everyone. It's really good. It's from Sufism. You know Sufism, which is the mystic form of Islam?
Mm.
It's explaining one of their slokas in Arabic. And it was just beautiful. It was the perfect version of non-duality. And I thought, see, it's in every religion somewhere.
Yeah.
And Darren sent it to me on Skype. I'll send it to you. It's this quote from Sufism, and it's just beautiful. It's almost perfect non-duality, slightly different words, but it's just perfect.
I
And I
love it.
thought, see, they know.
Oh yeah.
A lot of the sages in India were Muslim.
Yeah, Sufis, mystics.
But a nun came here and she was, I just wanted to blend with Jesus. So even in the order, she got it. You know, that order seemed to get what it was about. And eventually, I think she left the church and was coming here. But, or you know, on the yeah, she must have been here a long time ago. This older woman, she understood.
Okay, thank you.
That's the old
Thank
joke.
you.